Coming up on iOS today, last week, Rosemary, Orchard, and I talked about how to clean your devices in the physical space, IRL. Now we're heading into the devices. We're putting on our hacker hoods. We're breaking into the system, and we're cleaning things up. Let's tidy our devices digitally. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is iOS Today, episode 643, recorded Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. Free up space on your Apple devices. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/iOS to check out the pod cover and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU and Australia. Welcome back to iOS Today. This is the sometimes musical show where we talk all things iOS, iPadOS, HomePodOS, watchOS. There are lots of OSs, tvOS. And the whole point of this show is to help you out there who has purchased an iPhone or an iPad or some type of Apple device to help you make sure you are using these devices to the best of your ability. And I am so pumped for this week's episode. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am the not quite so musical today, Rosemary Orchard. Hey, everybody.
So this is kind of a dual episode. Last week we talked about how to make sure that the outside of the device is nice and clean, and this time we're going inside. I'm really pumped about this episode because it's one of the most common questions I get, Rosemary, because a lot of people don't have the extra, financial cushion to be able to afford a bunch of month-by-month iCloud storage. It can get kind of pricey, and if you are already kind of trying to make sure at the end of the month that you've got all the bills that absolutely need to be paid, you may not have that extra money left over, or it may kind of be hard for you to feel like you can justify spending money on something that for the most part seems as if it's, you can't hold it in your hands, right? It's this, I'm paying for this invisible increase in space where I put things. That's kind of been my experience when I'm attempting to convince folks that they should invest a little bit in expanding their storage. They often are going, yeah, but I don't really want to pay for that. So we wanted to talk today about different means of decreasing and clearing out your storage, and then also just a general conversation about kind of how storage on your iPhone, your iPad, et cetera, works. So yeah, Rosemary, any initial thoughts that you have before we dig into the specific apps and services?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where digitally cleaning up is a little bit more than just, the files and the things that you put on your device. There's also something's not being quite right. How do I fix this? And other elements of it. And so I'm just going to remind people of some of the basics. Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? Is, of course, the first go-to one. And so I will just quickly pop open my iPhone here. So if you've got an app that's not working right, if you've got a device that doesn't have a home button, then what you can do is you can sort of pull up and you pull up to maybe an inch above the bottom of your screen, a couple of centimeters, and then you get the apps in sort of a stack view. And then if you've got a particular app that's misbehaving, so say in my case, it was this Renault app that's back here that's misbehaving, then I can just swipe up on that and force quit it. Now, you don't want to be doing this with all of your apps all the time, but you certainly can do that with an app that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Something's a bit weird with that, whatever it is. Your other option is the good old press and hold on those two side buttons on your phone. That's volume up and the Siri button. Don't keep pressing it until it calls emergency services, but then you can slide to power off. I'm not going to do that right now because Mikah might actually want me to show something on screen. But that's something else you can do where you just reboot your phone and, just give it a try. There's been some weirdness that's, happened every so often with an update or so on. If something's being weird with your phone, just try force quitting an app if it's an app in particular, or something like your keyboard is not working right. Do just try turning your phone off and turning it back on again. Make sure you're connected to the Wi-Fi, things like that, because it's amazing what a reboot can fix. And every so often, things do just get a little bit stuck out of place. And so it's worth, trying the basics before you go to a more nuclear option like resetting or restoring your device.
That is a really good tip. I recently had a friend who reached out to me and said, hey, I know I've had this MacBook Pro for a million years. And I said, I know you have, because I remember years and years ago sitting down with it and replacing the battery inside of it. And this was in the before times where you had to literally take everything out of the MacBook in order to replace the battery. And I was like, I remember doing that, which meant that it was already old leading up to that point, and now it's got the new battery. Anyway, point is, he was asking, is all of this, I'm running out of storage space, and is it a matter of it's just getting old and there's stuff in there? What's going on? And I went through the process with him of how to check what was taking up space, what wasn't, and then also doing refresh, restart, and kind of looking at if there's just kind of some quote unquote cruft in there. And a lot of it ended up just being cruft. And so you may think that, oh goodness, every time I ask somebody for something, they brush me off and just say, turn it off and on again. No. When it comes to, there are recommendations that people give that are real and recommendations that people give that are brush offs. And it's like hitting the button on the elevator to close the door, where is that real? Is it not? That one, I understand the skepticism. But as far as actually telling someone to turn something on and off again, that is a very real bit of advice that does indeed work. So when someone's telling you that, definitely give it a try. And in fact, give it a go before you reach out to the person, because that can often help you out.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and start digging into the apps and services. Rosemary, let's say I have a photo library. Many of us do. And in fact, the photo library is often the culprit for taking up a bunch of space. And over time, I may have taken some screenshots and maybe accidentally taken more screenshots than I intended to. I may have tried to get a photo of my dog, and so I was holding down the button and capturing 15 photos of Henry or Mizzy doing whatever it was they're doing. And now I've got all of these photos that maybe I don't necessarily need on my system. Is there some way that I can deal with that? What I love about the answer that you're going to give is, before Apple ever introduced an option to do this, there was an app that made all the difference. So I would love for you to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about the more recent inclusion that Apple has added to the system in case you want to make use of that instead. So first, we've got to give a shout out and talk about this fantastic app that I've been recommending for years.
Yeah, so the first app I'm going to talk about here is great for cleaning up all of those duplicate photos and so on that you may have on your devices. And this app is called Gemini. And you may have heard of Gemini before. There is also a Mac version which finds duplicate files on your system. The iOS and iPad version is specifically for photos. And so when you open it up, it's a free app to download and give a try. And then after that, it's $19.99 a year to find all the duplicates. But what it will do is it will go through and it look for similar photos. It'll look for exact duplicates. It looks for videos and screenshots and so on. And it filters all of that sort of thing for you. And it even has like a blurred section. So for those really like weird pictures where you're like, whoa, what is this stuff? Like, why do I even want this? Well, you probably don't, so you can get rid of it. I'll pop into duplicates because this is the easiest way to show you how great Gemini is. So Gemini has looked at my photos library, and you can see it's got a number of different photos here on the screen if you're watching the video version. And in the bottom left-hand corner of each of those photos is a little square with a number on it. And most of these say 2. And now there's probably some down here somewhere where it says 3 or 5 or something, because I might have lots and lots of versions of this. But if I tap on this picture, which is a dessert picture that I took when I was in Budapest, and I can tell because I've got like the Instagram tag on there, I can see that I've got picture number 1 and picture number 2. And they are seemingly identical. And what it has done for me automatically is it selected that second one. And if I tap on it, then I can unselect it and include it. And it will then delete all of those for me. Now, if I don't want to like have it just automatically delete photos because, you want to go through and you want to check them, you can tap deselect all at the beginning. Okay. And then I can go through and look and go, okay, yep, number 2 is definitely a duplicate. And go here and yep, number 2, definitely a duplicate. And then I can delete those duplicates and I can even add it as a shortcut. Yeah. Yeah. So it will then go ahead. It asks me to confirm. It's not just going to delete photos without confirming it with you. So I will say, yes, please delete those 2. And voila. That's done. Now, it does ask you to review it and so on because I'm currently enjoying that 3-day free trial, which I should note I have had before. Gemini's creators, MacPaul, were generous enough to give me a second free trial on it. But that said, I do actually usually pay for this. I'm just using a different App Store account on this device today for you. So I think that this is well worth looking at because it also, as I said, has like the screenshots album, the blurred stuff, what is like, notes and so on. Like I've got all these pictures with text and so on in like, do I actually want these or do I not want these? Maybe, maybe not. It's a really great way of using a little bit of AI to help you filter out some photos and hopefully get rid of a whole bunch of data and storage that you don't need so that you can save both space on your device and in the cloud.
Beautiful. Yeah, Gemini is fantastic, not even just on the iOS and iPadOS platforms, but across the whole system. And what I love about it is when you use it on the Mac, it becomes also a duplicate file system. And so you can, I remember sending it after my network attached storage one time, and it took all night to look through everything. But then I was able to see, oh my goodness, look at all of these extra files and folders that I just did not need because they were duplicates. So it was really nice to be able to clean that out. So 100% recommend Gemini for making sure that you don't have a bunch of duplicates that you don't need. And again, this is what's so smart about it is that it also has those features to be able to check for things like blurred photos that are just, you took accidentally while you were trying to capture the photo you actually wanted to capture. Very clever app. Now, I did want to mention that there is a way both on the Mac, which it's been able to be done on the Mac for quite some time, but adding it to iOS is relatively new. In the Photos app, you are able to do a more basic form of duplicate detection. So I will show you, I don't have any duplicates in this library because this is a library that is specifically for this show. And so I don't have a whole bunch of photos here. But over time, as you're using your photos library, you will inevitably get duplicates. And what you want to do is either on your iPhone or on your iPad, you launch the Photos app, and then you tap on Albums, and then you look for an album called Duplicates that is stored below Utilities. So over here on the left, I've got Photos up at the top, and then there's a section called Utilities. And right there, I only have imports. But if I had duplicates, I would have another button that says Duplicates. And then what it gives you the ability to do is to tap a button called Merge. And what that does is it combines the duplicates into one file. And here is what Apple says about this. Merging combines the highest quality version and all of the relevant data across the duplicates and keeps that one in your library. The remaining duplicates are moved to the recently deleted album. So to be clear, what's happening is the system is looking at the photos, be it 2, 3, 4, however many duplicates you have. It's finding the highest quality one, the one that has, the highest megapixel, the one that has the most resolution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it is keeping that photo, but it is looking across all of them to get the metadata that's there, to find if, one of them might have the location tagged, one of them might have the lens that it was taken with, or the app that was used to make an edit to it. And it takes all of that information so you don't lose any of it, puts it into the one large, technically it's probably going to be larger, depending on what the file format is. the largest or the highest quality photo, and then just keeping that one, getting rid of the other ones. So this is a very slimmed down version of what Gemini can do. Gemini is a far more fully featured app that does duplicate detection, including photos that kind of look very similar, versus this, which is just focused on finding those duplicates and helping you merge them all into one. I have found that very helpful because I have had many devices over time, being a tech journalist, and have had many different, switches to new systems and imports of libraries, and all that stuff leads to duplicates on duplicates on duplicates. And so going through and just seeing how many duplicates there were was kind of wild to me, and how much space was being potentially taken up by doing that. I want to briefly talk about a number of features that can help you save space. And I think that, at least anecdotally, what I've seen is that people get concerned about the way that iCloud Photo Library and sort of iCloud storage works in general because of a lack of understanding of how it's working. And so when you have that you're not sure exactly what it's doing, where it's keeping your photos, what might be happening, it leads to some fear, uncertainty, and doubt that leads you to maybe not use these features. And suddenly, now you've got all of your storage space taken up and you don't know what to do next. So here on the iPhone, I have launched the Settings app. I've tapped on my Apple ID banner at the top, and then I've tapped on iCloud. What I want to do next is tap on Photos. And here in iCloud Photos, you can see that I have the option to sync this iPhone. What that does is it makes sure that the iPhone is part of my online iCloud photo library. Now, it shows how many photos and videos I have in iCloud. It's 21,725 photos and 1,730 videos, and it last synced 23 minutes ago. And my photo library is taking up 235.17 gigabytes of space in my online library. Now, below, you can see two options here that say optimize iPhone storage and then download and keep originals. This is the part that I think it's important for people to understand kind of how this works. When Apple introduced this technology many iOSs ago, what the goal here was to make it so that you could have your entire photo library stored on your phone in kind of a slimmed down, trimmed down way, and the full versions of your photos stored elsewhere so that you didn't have to take up all of the space on your device. So what Apple does is they essentially store these small thumbnails on your phone itself, especially going back. The older the photo or video is, or the less likely it is, according to the system, to be viewed, then the more likely it is that the low quality thumbnail is being stored on your device. And then when you decide that you want to view that photo or edit that photo or zoom in on that photo, then Apple will dynamically download that photo from the online storage space and show you it in its full glory. So that is what, when I choose optimize iPhone storage, that is what's happening. It is optimizing my storage by storing lower quality thumbnails and making it so that the full size version of whatever it happens to be is stored elsewhere. If I chose the second option, download and keep originals, what would happen is the phone would then download all of my photos and videos from the cloud and keep the actual version of those locally on my device. If you've got a lot of storage space and you're also in a situation where you don't have access to the internet frequently, then that may be the option that you want to take. But in most cases, I mean, I have probably plenty of storage space on this phone, but I choose to just use the optimized iPhone storage option because the system just dynamically does what it needs to do, and I don't really ever have to think about it. This is a feature that over time has become even better and better and better and better. And I think that some of the early concerns and some of the early issues that were experienced sort of became a bit of the story that stuck with it. And that has led to, again, some FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about how this system works. But it is incredibly capable and incredibly good at making sure that you've got more space on your phone, and you can fill it up with the things that you want to fill it up with.
Yeah, exactly. And there is nothing worse than not having storage space on your device when you want to take a new photo or whatever it is that you want to do. Download a new app, like maybe to pay for parking somewhere or whatever it is. So it's definitely worth going through and clearing that stuff out every once in a while, just so that you don't have, things that you don't want there. And also, it's when you go to get a new phone or whatever, do you want to take all those photos along with you? Maybe you can delete some. Or don't forget as well, in photos, you can tap and hold on a picture and hide it if you want to keep it, but maybe you don't want it showing up in your library all that often.
Indeed. Let us take, I think, no. We'll keep going. Let's talk about what if I've got a mail library, I guess, a mail database, a mailbox that is filled to the brim with lots of cruft, stuff that I don't really need, that I want to get rid of. Is there a way I can get rid of that stuff?
Yeah, there absolutely is. So first of all, I'm just going to make a recommendation based on the usage of the Mail app. And so I have the Mail app open here on my iPhone, and I've got an email from Cult Pens here. Now, say I'm signed up to the Cult Pens newsletter, which I am, and I get emails from there every once in a while, which I do. And maybe I want to go through and just delete all the previous emails that I had from Cult Pens, or find the previous emails from Cult Pens. Well, if I tap on the little icon for the contact at the top in Mail, then it expands the contact information. So then I get from : Cult Pens to : my name. And if I tap on the from, then I get their information pop up, and then I can go through and I can either block this contact if I wanted to, I could add them to a VIP, or more likely search for mail from this contact. Okay, and so then it will go through and it will search my inbox or whichever area that I'm in for emails specifically from Cult Pens. I can also then change this to, so it would look for any messages I've sent to them, or then just search the message where that email address appears anywhere in the message. And the best part of this is once you have these search results, you can tap on the edit in the bottom left-hand corner, and then you can bulk edit or manage your emails. So if you need to flag all of those emails, well, you can flag all of them. If you need to archive all of them or move them to a particular folder, you can do that. And of course, then my favorite button for many, many emails, the delete key. And that is right there as well. So don't forget that you can do that. And Mail is a surprisingly powerful and complex app. So it's definitely worth giving a shot if you haven't been using Mail for a while, because it's got a lot of great features, like being able to filter which email accounts you see depending on your focus mode. So while you're working, you see your work email. And while you're in maybe your personal focus mode, you don't see your work email. And so that is just one, way to get started. But say that you've done a little bit of that and you're there going, okay, well, I've done some work on this, and, I want to, do more. There are a couple of different options. There is a great app called Cleanfox, which I'm not going to go through and show everybody today. I've talked about this on the show before, but essentially what you can do is you can sign into Cleanfox, and you sign into it as though it were a mail client of its own, and it can go through and it will look at your email and analyze it and then help you figure out what you want to unsubscribe from and so on. So they are GDPR compliant, which is the European data regulations for protecting your data. So if you decide later you want to delete your account with them, then they can delete all of your data and so on. But it's a really great way to just go through and clean up a whole bunch of this stuff. Another recommendation, which I've just remembered that I forgot to put in the show notes, and I really should have, is an app called Unibox. And Unibox is essentially a different way of looking at mail, where it is organized by sender. And so you see all of the email in your inbox by sender instead of by time it was received, which means that if, for example, Mikah has sent me 10,001 emails, don't worry, folks, Mikah hasn't. Micah's very good about communication. Then I can go through and I can just go, right, any email from Mikah, delete. And I don't have to go through doing the search options, but I can also just see all the attachments and everything at the same time. And Unibox is available on iPhone and iPad as one app. And then there's also a separate Mac app, which also, as a side note, just like Gemini, which we mentioned earlier on the Mac, that's part of Setup. And so if you are looking to pick up some apps to clean up your machines, then it might be worth looking into Setup, because they do have a couple of options that may help you. But yeah, Unibox and Cleanfox are two of the ways that I clean up email on my devices.
Awesome. Any other quick mentions before we kind of go into what Apple has to say?
Yeah. So another mention that I want to make is contacts. Okay. I'm sure over the years you've ended up adding a whole bunch of people into your contacts because you needed to talk to them at this point or another, or some mail client automatically added everybody you've ever received an email from into your address book. Yay. We love that sort of thing, don't we, here at iOS Today? No, we don't. We hate this sort of thing. We want this stuff gone. And so there is an app that you can download, which is for some reason not showing up on my iPhone in the search, probably because I rebooted just before the show. But that is Easy Cleaner, which is an app that's free to download on your iPhone or iPad. And it will help you find and merge duplicate contacts, and also just, go through and sort things out and tidy things up, because there is nothing worse than, having loads of duplicate contacts running around. In fact, I found the app now, but I've just realized I'm not going to show it because I'll end up accidentally showing off somebody's personal contact information. And I don't really want to have to get that edited out of the show afterwards. So yeah, give Easy Cleaner a shot if you have contact information that you need to clear up. And another recommendation on the contacts front actually is CardHop. CardHop has a great view for birthdays, but if you go through the birthdays and you realize, hey, I don't need to know when this person's birthday is, then you can, use that as an opportunity to clean up their contact information at the same time.
Beautiful. All right. Let us take a quick break so I can tell you about our sponsor today. It's 8 Sleep. I love talking about 8 Sleep because, as I know, and as I love to tell you, good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is absolutely the ultimate sleep machine. That's because consistent good sleep can help reduce the likelihood of serious health issues. You can think of decreasing the risk of heart disease, also lowering blood pressure, and even reducing the risk of Alzheimer's. Yes, that is because better sleep means more opportunity for your body to recover and your brain to be refreshed. If you struggle to fall asleep, if you wake up in the middle of the night, or if you argue with your partner over the thermostat, well, then 8 Sleep is definitely for you, because the pod cover works hard all night long to improve your sleep so you don't have to. I used to wake up in the middle of the night all the time, just absolutely hot and sweaty, and it's just miserable. You wake up and you want to be able to fall back to sleep immediately, but I couldn't. I had to get out of bed to cool down. And because of the way my brain works, I can't sleep unless I have covers over me. Don't know why, but that's just how it is. And so I would have to just kind of deal with the fact that was going on. I don't have to do that anymore, because 8 Sleep keeps me nice and cool even with those covers over my body. It's incredible. And what I love about it too is it's more than just temperature regulation. It is sort of active temperature regulation. It is looking at how you sleep and making adjustments to make sure that you stay asleep. The pod cover fits on any mattress. In fact, that's the pod cover they sent me. I put it on the mattress I already had, and it allows you to adjust the temperature of your sleeping environment, providing the optimal temperature that gets you the best night's sleep. It features dual zone temperature control, so you and your partner can set your sides of the bed to as cool as 55 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, you don't have to fight over one temperature for the whole thing. And then based on your biometrics, the environment, and your sleep stages, the pod cover makes temperature adjustments throughout the night that limit wake-ups and increase your percentage of deep sleep. In addition to its best-in-class temperature regulation, the pod cover has sensors that also track your health and sleep metrics without the need to use any wearable devices. Better sleep is the health habit you're going to love sticking to night after night. So wake up fully energized with the pod cover so you can tackle whatever life throws at you. Go to 8sleep.com/iOS to save $150 at checkout on the pod cover. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, select countries in the EU, and Australia. That's 8sleep.com/iOS. Check it out. Get a good night's sleep. Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, 8 Sleep, for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. All right, back from the break, and now it's time to talk about checking in on what is taking up space on your iPhone and your iPad by way of checking the storage on your device. So, Rosemary, if I know that, or if I think maybe that I'm getting close to the full max coverage of what I've got stored, how can I check to see if that is the case?
Well, there are a couple of things you could do, Mikey. You could plug your phone into, say, a Mac or a Windows machine and use either Finder on Mac OS or iTunes on Windows to have a look. Or you could just open up settings on your iPhone and go to General and then iPhone storage. On iPad, it's called iPad storage. If you've got an iPod, it's iPod storage. Yep, you guessed it, folks. And then it will load up this screen and it will show you how much storage you're using. So out of my 256 gigabyte available on my iPhone, I'm using 233.8 gigabytes. I could save 21.18 gigabytes by offloading unused apps. And I have 5.27 gigabytes of downloaded videos. And now it's finished loading the data and it's given me some category information and I can tell you where all of that data is. So I can see that I've got 97 gigabytes of music on here. I've got 11.32 gigabytes of podcasts and 3.81 gigabytes of photos and more. So what I can do with any of these, if you think, oh, wow, this app is using a whole bunch of space and I don't want that, is if I swipe across on any of these rows here that tell me exactly how much is being used per app, I get two options. Okay, I can either offload the app, which will keep the data for the app on the phone, but the app itself won't be installed. So for something like, say, the Facebook app, that will probably save you a whole bunch of data because Facebook app, for whatever reason, is absolutely humongous, but it doesn't store that much data on your device. But for something like podcasts, where the downloaded podcasts are the bits that take up space, if I want to save space, well, either I can go into podcasts and unsubscribe from stuff or change the settings so it doesn't download things, or I can just delete the app. Don't worry, folks, I actually use Overcast, and that's down here taking up a reasonable 2.77 gigabytes. So you tap on delete. It may not look like it's done anything to start with, but as it goes through and actually deletes everything, that will all disappear. And the most important thing to note about this list of apps here, it's not alphabetized, but it is sorted by biggest to smallest. And in the top right, I have a search option. So if I want to see, for example, how much space the Instagram app is taking up, if I search for INST, then I see both Instapaper with a little cloud icon with a download arrow next to it because it's offloaded, and that's how you take up 307 kilobytes, and the Instagram app, which is taking up 322.8 megabytes. Whoa, quite a bit of space for an app that just shows me a couple of pictures. Maybe I should reevaluate my use of Instagram. Maybe not. We'll see. But this is a great way to find out, how much storage space do you have left and where is that going? So I can see, I've got a fairly even division here between media and apps. iOS itself is not taking up that much space. Photos isn't taking up that much space. And system data is taking up a reasonable amount of space. System data, folks, unless you really have a tiny, tiny device, I would not worry about it. It's one of those things where this is stuff like understanding how you pronounce the names of people and apps and so on. And also when you do the swipe up, the recommendations that appear there and things like that for the different apps that you may want, that stuff is all system data. That magic is all on your device. So that's where all that's going. And so things like recognizing that there is a dog in this picture that's stored on your device, that's part of system data.
Now, I love the suggestions that the storage section provides, and it's often a place that I tell people to go whenever they have this question, because depending on what's on your device, you may get that very specific, that very thing suggested to you. I have a recommendation of mine that says review downloaded videos. I can save up to 1.26 gigabytes if I remove videos stored on my device. And what's fascinating is when I tap on that, it's actually talking about the Audible books that I've downloaded. So I'm guessing it's because of the file format that they're in that it thinks that it's video. And it's saying, hey, you could remove these to save some space. But then it will tell you all sorts of things. I mean, I think that's what makes it such a handy place to go. Is Apple's very aware of this being an issue and a concern that people have and a problem that they run into. And they do try to make it possible for you to get what you need out of the system, that you can go in there, get some suggestions for clearing out your, moving things to iCloud with the photo library, or if you are, especially in an iPad where it's very much a video consumption device, if you have your Apple TV shows downloaded and stored locally, being able to clear those out really quick. And so there's a lot here about managing your photo and video storage that has to do with where you can store these photos after you're done.
Yeah. I just want to go back to the general phone storage section, because I should also mention that you can tap on each individual app and see what is taking up the space in that app. So I've tapped on Messages, because Messages is using nearly 3 gigabytes of storage on my device. Now, for me, this isn't a problem. If I'm starting to run out of space, then maybe I don't need 100 gigabytes of music downloaded. Possibly I might get away with 90 gigabytes. I can probably get away with a lot less. But when I've tapped on this, I can actually see how much space is being taken up. So sending messages and emoji and things like that back and forth, that takes up no space, okay? That's taking up 16.1 megabytes, okay? That is considerably less than 0.5% of the size of the Instagram app. So the actual messages going backwards and forwards are not a problem. Photos are taking up 58.6 megabytes. Videos are taking up 469.8 megabytes, and so on. But if I tap on one of these, so I'm going to tap on Other because I've already checked this out to make sure I know what it is, then I can actually see individual files. And it may take a while to load everything in here, but you can tap on individual files and I can see, okay, this is a Christmas menu that somebody sent me. I don't need this, and I can just delete that individual thing. And especially if you've got something that's taking up 5 or 6 gigabytes of space, then you can get that precious storage space back, which also means that your phone won't have to back that up so that it's stored into everything in your backups as well, which reduces the size of your backups, makes backups faster. Hope you are doing backups. If you're not, digital spring cleaning homework, folks. Turn on backups. Make sure you've got backups running. And make sure your friends and family and relatives and random person that you sit next to on the train, bus, plane, whatever, also has backups enabled. Spread the good deeds, everyone.
It's a public service.
Everyone should have backups. But yeah, so go through and double check and have a look at anything that's taking up huge amounts of space. And if you can get rid of it, get rid of it. It's well worth doing. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm really smart, I always set up my devices from new, don't forget a lot of this stuff syncs. So just because you set it up from new doesn't mean that there isn't anything to check on here. So definitely go and check to make sure that there's nothing sneaky taking up an unexpected amount of storage on your device.
Yes. And to kind of round this part out, I briefly touched on it earlier, but there often is some confusion about the difference in storage space depending on where you are storing things. And so Apple actually has a guide called What's the Difference Between Device Storage and iCloud Storage that kind of walks you through the process, because there are two different places on the phone, one by tapping on the Apple ID and then tapping on iCloud and then tapping on Manage Account Storage, versus going into General and then tapping, in the case of the iPhone, on iPhone storage. The second one is showing the device storage. The first one was showing iCloud storage. That is because one is talking about the physical location of your device, the files and apps and images, everything that's stored there. And the other is talking about what's being stored in the cloud. So you may have two different storage sizes. You may have, a subscription to get, 2 terabytes of iCloud storage. Don't confuse that with the storage that you have locally on your phone or iPad, which may very well be a different amount that's there. So just keep that in mind, that you do have those two different places and that you access and view and manage each of them in different places. Of course, we'll include a link in the show notes to the guide that talks about each of those, so you can see kind of how you get to them. All right, let us move on. We've got some feedback from a listener that kind of helped to inspire this episode, or at the very least fits within this first segment of the show. So Steve from Maine writes, "Hello, Mikah and Rosemary. I'm a Windows user with an iPad Pro and iPhone Pro. I'd like to do some app cleanup and rearranging. I'd like to get a list of all of the apps installed on my iPad and iPhone, which I can send to a file so I can look the apps up to see which I want to keep. I have several, 14 plus the app library page screens. Oh my goodness, 14 screens of apps plus the app library screen. Many apps show a cloud indicating I haven't used them in a while. And I'm going to pause here to give some editorial. So what Steve from Maine is talking about is a feature in the settings that we actually showed earlier that says offload unused apps. And what this does is after a while of not using an app, Apple will go ahead and kind of make the app into a bit of just a placeholder. And then the next time you go to use the app again, it will re-download from the cloud whatever the app is and let you use it again. It keeps the data that you have with the app, but just the app itself goes away, and then you can easily get it back. So if you haven't used apps in a while and you have offload unused apps turned on, then it will make them go away, which again, saves some space on your device. So back to Steve from Maine's piece. Many apps show a cloud indicating I haven't used them in a while. Before I delete them, I'd like to know what they are. Is there a way I can create the list of apps as a file so I can research them? The next step, or it might actually be research them. The next step is to start organizing the screens and pages, putting apps on pages that are related. Dragging apps from screen to screen is difficult for me as I have low vision. I've tried dragging apps and creating folders, but with my low vision, it is difficult. iTunes on Windows used to allow you to arrange apps. Is there an app I can use on Windows to arrange my apps? Thank you for your help, Steve from Maine. Yes, I remember the days of using, and we'll talk about this app, an application on the Mac to arrange how the apps appeared on my phone before I switched to not storing them in any folders and just using search to find the apps that I wanted. That is my modern way of doing things. But back in the day, I used to have these folders meticulously arranged and organized. And I remember setting that up with an application we're going to talk about. But let's first talk about using iTunes for Windows, which is kind of now a full-featured app.
Yeah, it kind of is. But one of the things to note about iTunes is it's gone through a couple of different, revisions over the years. And I don't actually have a Windows computer to check, but my research on Apple's website indicated that you can't organize home screens there anymore, which is a little bit of a shame because you can manage all of your playlists and everything else. And if somebody is using Windows and says, hey, there is a way that you can, organize your home screen, then with using iTunes on Windows specifically, then please do let us know. But there is another app that I've used, at least I've used the Mac version of it before, which does allow you to organize your home screens, and that is called AnyTrans. And AnyTrans will let you manage home screens. And I think that may be worth a try. But I would suggest that there might be some alternatives that you can use instead of organizing your home screens, and that would be deleting your home screens. Because it's a little bit radical, but I'm going to suggest it anyway. Because if you have low vision, which makes organizing the apps difficult, then I can only imagine that looking for a particular app icon is also going to be quite challenging. And especially when you've got apps that change their icon and things that look quite similar, which a lot of apps in like the same sort of category do tend to end up looking. And so if you want to delete a home screen, which you may want to do, by the way, just to clear everything up, then what you can do, I'm doing this on an iPhone, folks, but you can do this on an iPad as well. So if you tap and hold to enter the jiggle mode for editing your home screen, and then you tap on the dots at the bottom, then you can actually see home screens. And if you're not in a focus mode, which I will just exit my focus mode to show folks a little better how you can do this. Please ignore the number of unread emails I have. A lot of those are from work. Then there's a little minus icon on the top left of each home screen. And then I can actually just go ahead and I will pick one of these home screens that I don't want anymore. So this one here, and I can then tap on that minus and I can remove that page. And that's it. And if it contains any bookmarks or shortcuts, then those will disappear. Shortcuts obviously stay in the Shortcuts app. Bookmarks, as in things that you've saved to a homepage from Safari, will disappear entirely. They can't go into the app library, but all of the apps will still be there and they'll be in the app library. So that is probably what I would start doing. I just get rid of all of your home screens and start from the beginning. It's a very good place to start, but not only is it a very good place to start, it gives you the opportunity to try launching apps in different ways. So you can use Spotlight on your iPad, where you can pull down in the middle of the home screen to reveal a search bar. Or if you have a keyboard attached, you can use Command Space, and then you can type the name of the app. You can use Siri to launch apps as well. And there's a number of different ways, which, Apple has documented in a very handy support article, which you can, check out later. The other thing I should mention, just because it is worth knowing, is if folks go into the app library, okay, so you swipe over to your app library and you see all of these folders here. If you then pull down or tap into that search bar at the top, you get a alphabetized list of every single one of your apps. Now, there's no easy way to export this list from your device, but it's certainly a place where you can look. And if necessary, you could take screenshots of these. And don't forget that Photos has that great feature where you can select text and find text in a photo or screenshot. And so that will definitely be one of your useful friends here, so that you're not attempting to try and read from a photo, which is probably not the nicest thing to be doing at the best of times, especially if you have some accessibility needs, such as low vision. And, this is not particularly high contrast here on my device with my background. So I can imagine that this would not be the best experience for most people.
Now, there is a shortcut that someone created, and we're going to have Rosemary vet it before I am willing to share it with the group. So if you see it in the show notes after the show, then you'll know that it got the blessing. But someone created a shortcut that will basically use OCR to look at those and get the apps and then make a list out of them. So there is someone who tried to make this happen, but I don't want to share it in case it's secretly doing things that you wouldn't want it to do. So we may include a link to that. But this is the one thing, Steve from Maine, that is a bit of a bummer is, if you did have a Mac, then you could use the tool that I love to use, which is called Apple Configurator. And Apple Configurator very easily lets you make a list of the apps that you have, very easily lets you organize things as you want them, very easily lets you install apps that you want to install and uninstall apps that you don't want on the system anymore. Unfortunately, it is an app for the Mac and therefore would not work on a Windows machine in this case. I also, so that we don't get emails, I want to make sure that everybody knows that iCloud for Windows is the modern means of interacting with devices on using Windows machine as opposed to iTunes. And we have also included links in the show notes to the iCloud for Windows user guide and a place to download iCloud for Windows to your PC. So yes, we are fully aware that iTunes for Windows is the old school version and iCloud for Windows is the modern version, and that they both do different things. But Apple, of course, is kind of paying more attention to iCloud for Windows as the means going forward. And in fact, just the other day, got a question from someone who was trying to get access to their keychain, who did not have a Mac. And so we were able to direct them to iCloud for Windows as the means to get access to their keychain. All right, before we move on to the news, Rosemary, is there anything else that you want to cover in the first segment today?
I don't think there is, though I do want to say I've taken a quick look at the shortcut and it seems like a good idea, but I'm pretty certain that you can do exactly what is being done here with a little bit of screenshots, Pixo, and just the text option inside of the Photos app, because unfortunately the shortcut is kind of hard coded to work with the iPhone 11 Pro, which makes it a little sad. So yeah, I will. I'll do some more digging and see if I can follow up on that. But if you take screenshots of everything in the app library, and then you stitch it together with a great app called Pixo that I've had as my app cap a few times and we've mentioned on the show before, then you can get all of the apps into one list and use the OCR feature in Photos to copy all of those app names out, which may be a little better than trying to modify a fairly complex looking shortcut. not sure it needs to be that complex, to be honest, that somebody has created for this purpose.
I love the side eye that Rosemary's giving this shortcut. Like, I think this could be simpler. I don't think it needs all of this stuff.
It's one of those things, right? Do you need a complex solution or do you need a solution that works? Sometimes you have to go complex before you can simplify. I'm no shade to the creator, but looking at it, I can think of a number of ways where I could just do this a little bit more easily.
All right, folks, up next, it is time for the news. I hope you are all clearing out the cruft on your devices while we head into the news. All righty. First, there was a recent piece that was published with the Wall Street Journal about how there are some thieves who are basically watching for people typing in their passcodes. And then instead of kind of the way that thieves have worked up to this point, digital thieves have worked up to this point, is you gain access to someone's accounts and then you make use of, you try to, make money off of them in different ways. But the new method, at least that the Wall Street Journal was reporting on, is about essentially taking over a victim's life by getting access to their smartphone passcode and then getting access to their device itself, and then suddenly having everything that they own and are and have being used against them. So it's a little bit different from, simply getting access to a specific account or getting someone's credit card information or something like that. If somebody got access to my phone and had my passcode or was able to access it, there's a lot of stuff in there that they could then use. Apple has responded to this piece from the Wall Street Journal, and here is what an Apple spokesperson said. Security researchers agree that iPhone is the most secure consumer mobile device, and we work tirelessly every day to protect all our users from new and emerging threats. We sympathize with users who have had this experience and take all attacks on our users very seriously, no matter how rare. We will continue to advance the protections to help keep user accounts secure. Now, of course, this is, I think, an important bit of understanding that, yes, if someone's watching your device and they gain access to everything that you have, then you are in a bit of a pickle for sure. And so just being aware of that, I think, is what the point of the Wall Street Journal's report was.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, there are a number of points that, have been raised. If you are using a 4-digit passcode on your device, or you have a friend or family member who's using a 4-digit passcode on their device, now is a good time to go and change that. So that at the very least, you're using a 6-digit passcode, but you can also have an alphanumeric passcode. So, like a regular password that you type in with letters and capital letters and all of that stuff. The other thing I will say is if you, like me and Mikah, you have an Apple Watch and your Apple Watch unlocks your iPhone, you do have to input a passcode on your Apple Watch or have a passcode on your Apple Watch so that you can unlock your phone. And it's one of those things where if you unlock your phone, then a locked watch will be unlocked by the phone. And if you pick up your phone and I'm waving it around like this, and I try to open it, then it can be opened by, my Apple Watch. If, I sort of look at it ish, and it then goes, oh, hey, look, I've unlocked you. But it vibrates on your wrist. So if you are somewhere and, you've put your phone down, and you suddenly get a buzz on your wrist to say, hey, your phone's been unlocked, it's worth double checking, where did my phone go? So that you don't have that problem. But in general, make sure that you actually have a passcode set and, just like you would at an ATM, don't let people watch over your shoulder as you input your PIN. It is kind of the keys to the kingdom in many ways. So, but that said, if somebody mugs you and tries to get you to tell them your passcode before they run away, don't be stupid, people. Please look after yourselves. You can, log in and change all of your details online as soon as you get somewhere safe. But look after yourselves.
Absolutely. And then we wanted to mention that LumaFusion, which is an incredibly popular video editing app on iPhone. I think we've talked about it before on a couple of episodes. One where it was about kind of power apps, power user apps for iPad. It is now available on Android and ChromeOS. So it keeps on spreading.
Yeah, exactly. So, if any folks have heard about this and gone, oh, yeah, but I've got an Android tablet and I really prefer to try it on a bigger screen, then this is an opportunity to go give it a whirl. It is a really great video editing app, so I definitely recommend it.
And then next, I wanted to, looks like we wanted to mention this. I just came across this story this morning. Windows 11 has gotten an update with Phone Sync, which is its tool for syncing stuff that happens on your phone with your Windows machine. On the Surface Laptop 3, I have it turned on for this Pixel 6. And so I can get messages from the Pixel 6 and other interactions from the Pixel 6 on the Windows machine when I'm using it. And Phone Sync has been updated to work kind of with the iPhone. Here are the headlines that you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of headlines saying that iMessage is now available for Windows 11. But what you're not going to see a lot of are the asterisks that should be there at the end because iMessage is not precisely available on Windows 11. What had happened was Windows is using a Bluetooth connection with your phone to send and receive messages. Okay, that's the first thing to understand. And when you, on your Windows machine, go and want to send a message on your iPhone, you type it in and then it goes on the iPhone and sends as it needs to. And if you're talking to someone who is on iMessage, then it's going to be an iMessage, but you cannot participate in a group chat with this feature. You cannot send images with this feature, and you won't be able to differentiate on the Windows machine. This one is not as important, but I do want to make it clear. You won't be able to differentiate on the Windows machine between iMessage conversations you're having and text message conversations you're having. So essentially what's happening here, as opposed to saying like iMessage is now available for Windows 11, I think it should be iMessage Remote is now available for Windows 11.
It's more like basic car message integration now available through Windows, because if you've got a car that doesn't support CarPlay or Android Auto, it's using the same sort of technology stack that I know my mom's Mini. It's a much older Mini. It's about 10 years old. It doesn't have like CarPlay or anything, but it can still send and receive messages. It's using that sort of thing, basically, as far as I can tell, which is why it's so limited. But, it's kind of there-ish.
It's kind of there.
If you need to send a quick message, then if you're on the Windows Insider stuff, then it's rolling out this week. Good luck, and let us know how it works for you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. And let's do one more. So this, of course, has long been rumored that Apple is working on an AR VR headset. We may see something about it as early as this year, but there's also conversation about technology for these AR VR headsets that would help people with certain eye diseases and ones that will cause, of course, visual issues for a person. According to this Mac Rumors report from Julie Clover, it says, while there's no detail available on just what Apple has in development for a future AR VR headset, accessibility, of course, is always at the forefront. Apple aims to make its devices usable by everyone, and it's going to have more than a dozen cameras that, of course, will map the area out and about, but it could also allow the headset to project extra visual information to those who are legally blind or have other visual problems. It could potentially provide audio directions to those with no sight. So think about on your iPhone right now, I remember when they added door detection, for example, and then a lot of the augmented. I remember just the other day when I was in San Francisco and I needed to find my way because of the big buildings. A lot of that GPS access is cut off. And so you pick up your phone and you move it around, and then AR notices what's around it, and then it can provide these in virtual space directions where you need to go with arrows and everything. And so all of these features that are just already existing on the platform, think of them being applied to then this AR VR headset that will have these extra features that make it even better for folks. I think this is great.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear how like this cool new feature in technology is actually really secretly a really great accessibility feature. So looking forward to seeing what happens, and fingers crossed we will learn about some more of this. Maybe when this headset launches, maybe at WWDC, maybe next month at a surprise event. Who knows? We'll find out when Apple tell us, and maybe 5 minutes before from Mac Rumors.
It may very well be. All right, I can hear the music. It's time for Shortcuts Corner. This is Shortcuts Corner, the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and Rosemary Orchard, the shortcuts expert, provides a response. Our first bit of Shortcuts Corner comes from John, who writes, "Hello, Rosemary and Mikah. I'm hoping you can help me with a shortcut I've been unable to figure out. Here's what I'd like to have this shortcut do for me. Each morning at 7 a.m., determine my location. If my location is my hometown, then do nothing. If my location is not my hometown, prompt me to send an iMessage to my wife. Ideally, the shortcut would also either open up iMessage to the ongoing conversation with my wife in the Messages app, or provide a pop-up box on screen allowing me to compose and send the message. Thanks in advance for your consideration. All the best to you both." And John has paid the pet tax with Beck the pet. So we'll take a look at Beck, and then we'll see what Rosemary has to say about a time-based notification. So we've got an adorable white fuzzy dog here with sort of gray and black accents, if you will, who appears to be resting on, I think that's a double crochet. It might be triple crochet.
It looks nicely fuzzy, that yarn. I very much approve of the smorgasbord. Shall we go with the word smorgasbord of colors?
Yes,
there's some
sort
good colors in there.
of ice cream pastel colors, and
with some good green in
looks
there.
like a sweet,
some nice green.
Indeed. So Rosemary, is this a possibility?
Yes. I'm going to start with just the word yes, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. So first of all, in the Shortcuts app, you're going to want to open the Automation tab and create a new personal automation for time of day. Okay, and then you'll want to set the time to 7 a.m. And I'm just going to double check. So you said, John, each morning. You didn't say each weekday morning, so I'm just going to go with every single morning. You can actually change this to weekly and just choose certain days of the week. So if you didn't want to run this on Sundays, for whatever reason, you could turn that off. But I'll leave this as daily. And then you tap next. And then I'm actually going to just stop right here. And I'm going to leave it blank because I'm going to do the rest of this in Shortcuts, because you could just then use this with a run shortcut action. And more importantly, I can share the answer with you so that you can just download this and see it for yourself. So to start with, what we need to do is we need to get your location. And the location actions in Shortcuts used to be really slow. But nowadays they have sped up quite a bit, like the search in Shortcuts whenever I'm sharing my screen. So once I find that get location action, I can pop that in. And there we go. It's get current location, which has zoomed up my screen somewhere, I believe. There we go. No? Okay. I will give it a moment and I will keep explaining. So a location has a number of different properties depending on how you look at it. It could just be that it is a GPS coordinates, longitude and latitude, or it could be, something else. So we'll get the location and you can choose the precision, which is like nearest 100 meters, nearest kilometer, nearest 10 meters. Obviously, if you are using imperial measurements, then you'll have like nearest mile, nearest half mile, whatever it is. But generally, you wouldn't need to change that. And then even suggested, the next suggested action is the get details of location. Okay, and so you said that you want to get the town or city and see if it is your hometown. So you could be a little more precise than this. I often use like a zip code for this, but as you can see, when I run this and I get the town or the city from my current location, it says Chippenham, which is the town in which I live. And so what we are going to do is we're going to add a little if action, which will then just check if this is the town it should be. So if the town or city, and then we're going to say is, and in my case, I'll write Chippenham, but obviously you're going to want to write your hometown in here. Then I am going to delete the otherwise, and we're going to just look for a stop shortcut because we don't want to do anything here. We literally just want to finish and say goodbye. That's it. So long. And thanks for all the fish. Unless, of course, it happens to be a whale. So I will just put that stop and output inside the if where I have removed the otherwise. Okay. So you can just use the stop shortcut action or stop and output. Doesn't matter in this case because it's not really going anywhere. So if you're in your hometown, we're not doing anything. And now we get to the next bit. You want to send your wife a message. So there are two ways we can do this. You could use the messages action, which works. And it can even allow you to send a predetermined message or get a random list item and send a random good morning to you, wonderful person. How are you today? And I hope that your day is wonderful in the Czech weather. It's 7 degrees and cloudy weather that you are currently experiencing. You could do something like that. Or, as you suggested, opening the conversation with your wife. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show folks how to use a URL scheme so that you can actually talk to your wife and see, what previous messages have you exchanged and so on. So in the URL, we are going to use the URL scheme. And this is where you get super nerdy and hacky, okay? So you're going to be an elite hacker by doing this. If you type SMS : / and then the phone number of your wife, okay? So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I could type, then that would be better. And I'll put a 0 at the end as well, okay? And then we just need to go with the open URL action. Now, this is using the X callback URL setup and everything, but we don't want to use a callback URL because callback goes back into shortcuts. So we just want to open a URL. And obviously I don't have a contact with the phone number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So when I open this URL, it's going to look a little weird. But there we go. I needed that to be is not. There we go. And voila. So it is now talking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And this would be messages back and forth between this person and myself. Now, obviously, this person doesn't exist, but there we go. This is how you can do that. So I will get this shortcut shared into the show notes with a little bit of, it'll ask you when you import it, what is the name of your hometown? And it'll also ask you for your wife's phone number. You could get the phone number out of contacts or whatever it is instead. Especially if this person often updates their phone number. But I think you can probably just type it in and voila, that will be it. So that's what I'm going to suggest. And I hope that solves the problem.
Beautiful. All right. We've got another Shortcuts Corner request from Joe. Joe writes, "Hi, hope you are well. I have recently discovered iOS today and have been listening to quite a few episodes. I have never really explored shortcuts. However, you have inspired me to start. And I was wondering if you could help me with one. I currently am going into Settings, Notifications, the Baby Camera app, turning on notifications or off notifications every time we put our baby down for a nap or to sleep at night. I know I could use a focus mode. However, these are not all at the same time as her nap times change and sleep times change. Is there a way to create a quick shortcut to turn on or off the notifications just for that one app with just one click of a button? Kind regards, Joe. P.S. Keep up the great content." So if only we knew what baby camera app it was, right?
Yeah, because I was really hoping that if we knew the name of the baby camera, then there might be like shortcut support for turning on notifications and turning off notifications. But in lieu of that, I'm still going to recommend a focus mode because focus modes will allow you to turn on and off notifications. So what I am suggesting, to be clear, and I'll just open up settings so that I can show folks what I mean, is when you create a focus mode, which I can't do, so I'll use the reading mode. Then what you can do is you can either choose to include or exclude notifications. So I would suggest that most of the time you have a personal focus mode, which you would say silence applications from, and I'll just pick Airbnb, but obviously this is the baby camera app that I'm suggesting. Okay, and so it will turn off those notifications. And then what I would suggest is that we create a personal automation And I'll just pop back into shortcuts where I can show Fox this. So you create a personal automation, you scroll down and you look for your focus modes. Okay. And so then you say, okay, when I turn off baby is awake mode, okay, whichever focus mode you decide for that to be, you could call it baby is awake if you wanted to. And then you change that to turning off. Okay. And so then what we will do is ask you for some information, like how long do you want the baby to be asleep for? Because what we're doing here is we're flipping this around because unfortunately you can't have notifications for an app turned off all the time and then have it turned on in a focus mode. That's not how it works. You either have notifications on or you have notifications off. So if we ask for input and then we ask for, and I'm just going to go with a number here, how long will the baby nap for? And I'm going to assume that you're going to answer in minutes because it might be 30 minutes, 90 minutes or so. And now you may want to give yourself the option to type in 1 and then use a list and choose from list to say minutes or hours. Or you might just want to use like a dictionary to say like 20 minutes and then have 20 or 2 hours and 120 is your value, whatever it is. And then what we will do is use the focus mode options to turn on a focus mode in that period of time. So what you can do is, when the search option on my phone appears, and this is why I rebooted my phone before the show today. So you can turn on, and then I would suggest, you have a different focus mode that you use the rest of the time, which includes that you turn this on until and then the time. So you'll just need to adjust the date and time, and I'll just sneak that in there. I will when it shows up. And then you can add, X, Y, Z minutes to the current date and time. So in the date, you just pop in, and if we swipe across, we should be able to see current date. Perfect. And then we want to say add the provided input in minutes to that. And then in our time, if we just tap and hold on that, then we can choose our adjusted date. And so we would turn this on until that time. And then when it turns off, use another focus mode to, turn on your no baby napping focus mode. It's not ideal. The other options would include using a URL scheme to open settings to the notifications section, or maybe even being able to open settings to that particular app. But this isn't great. So if you write back and tell us which baby cam app this is, then maybe we can find out if they've got shortcut support, or maybe somebody who's listening to the show goes, hey, I know something here, because you may actually be able to, in the baby cam app itself, like have a toggle for like snooze for X period of time where you can turn off the notifications right there. So hopefully we're going to be able to give you some help. That's how you can turn on and off focus modes for a particular period of time. And that is definitely what I recommend looking into for this. But if you give us a little more information, which baby cam app this is, and so on, then I or some other folks may have some recommendations. I did do a brief bit of research. Looks like most of these apps don't have shortcut support. But
that's unfortunate.
You never know. Never know. We may be able to get a little creative. The lovely viewers of iOS Today are certainly always very generous with their feedback. So maybe we can get some recommendations.
Yeah. And I think, Joe, if you don't need these, this to be turned on for a specific amount of time, if you're just going like, if you walk in and you put baby down, so now comes the time that you want to turn it on, and then you come back however long later that you are planning on coming back, or when the baby starts crying, and so you walk in, I'm taking the baby out of the room, all those times are changing. If you just want to toggle, I was thinking, I was thinking, so you set it up with the focus mode. The focus mode is doing one thing. It's so the focus mode is called baby sleep, right? And in that focus mode, baby sleep just turns off notifications for that one specific app, right? So would it be possible for me to go into shortcuts, create a shortcut that says get focus mode, right? And if the focus mode is baby sleep, meaning if it's turned on, then turn it off. And if otherwise, turn it on. And then I add that shortcut to my iPhone home screen. And then all I have to do is tap that when I go to lay baby down. And then I tap it again when I go to take baby out of the room. Would that work?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, it would. So I'm presuming that they want the baby camera on when the baby's napping and off when the baby isn't napping and therefore is not in the
So
room. But
reverse that.
I'm not 100% certain. But the other thing that has just occurred to me is, have you considered a HomeKit smart plug? Because if you get a HomeKit smart plug, you could just physically turn the camera off when you don't want the camera on and sending notifications, and turn it on when you do want it sending notifications. And that could work. And that would be really easy. That would be in the control center. And you could also, have shortcut support for that. So there are plenty of ways to solve this problem. Fingers crossed you can give us some information, Joe, and hopefully we can give you some more help there.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we need to move along to our app caps. It's time for app caps up next. Welcome to the app cap segment of the show, the part of the show where we place caps atop our heads to honor our app or gadget picks of the week. These are the apps and gadgets we're using now or have used at some point that we think are great and want to share with all of you. And as part of sharing those apps or gadgets with you, we place things atop, around, on, over, usually not under our heads. So, Rosemary Orchard, first tell us about the cap atop your head and then tell us about your app or gadget pick of the week. I love your cap today.
Oh gosh, my cap today is surprisingly heavy. I have to say, this is a very dense burger that I'm wearing, Mikah. I guess it's the cheese. Is it the cheese on the burger that makes it heavier?
Yeah,
that must
definitely.
be it, right? I've even got like a little basket for fries underneath it, which is what's on my head. It's a little tighter than I expected. But yeah, I might have bought another party box of hats. Look, there's even salad in here. We've got some onion, we've got tomato, we've got lettuce, and then there's the cheese and the burger and the bun. I know, there's even sesame seeds on the bun. I know, it's great. So yeah, that's my cap. And my pick this week is an iPad cover. So I did an iPhone cover last week, so I'm kind of on a theme at the moment. But for a while, I was using just the standard Apple smart cover that you can buy, which you can get for all of the iPads, and it has the folding front cover where it sort of is a triangle that wraps around, and the back cover that just sticks on, and it's fine. But if you need to stand your iPad up, it doesn't exactly give you a lot of height. And one of the things that I know a number of us have had at various points is, a little bit of an ache in your neck, maybe from like looking down like this for much too long, which is just not good for you. And something that's better is if you can make your iPad a bit taller. And I've been a fan of Moft stuff for a while. And they came out with this new case, which, I've been eyeing up, but it wasn't available over here in the UK quite so easily until recently. And this is their stylish Snap Photo Folio. So I'll just take it off the iPad entirely just to show folks. So I've got the one, it's the sort of light gray color on the outside. It's black on the inside. It's a smooth interior, but that I find is better because then you can just wipe it off if anything gets on it. And it's got a camera cutout and everything. And then when I pop it on my iPad, which if I actually put the camera in the right spot is a little easier to do, then it just sort of wraps around like a book, just like the regular one does. But when it comes to standing this up, it's got a little bit of origami to it. So this is going to be a little difficult because my microphone is in the way. But essentially what happens is I sort of like poke here in the back, and then it opens up to actually be a stand that elevates my iPad by about half of the height of the screen. Okay, so this is an iPad mini, so it's not getting it that much higher, but it is definitely getting it higher. It's wobbly because I'm balancing out my hand, to be clear, folks. It is actually very stable when you put it on a solid surface that is not my hand. But it raises your iPad up. And I have to say, I'm liking this. I'm really liking this.
That's super cool.
I also like is this. So the Apple case is exactly around the edges. The Moft case, it's got a little bit of space there. Okay, so like it like the edges of your iPad aren't quite so exposed. So when I fold this, if I try and point this at the camera so that people can actually see, then you can actually like there's a little bit of a buffer there. So like stuff isn't going to be hitting the side of my iPad quite so much. And I have to say, I really like the height that you get from just standing this up. It gets it out of the way. If you're using it in the kitchen for recipes or whatever, it's going to keep it out of the way of spills. And because this is a white clean surface, you don't have to worry about that so much. If you're watching something on a plane, it's a bit higher. There's all sorts of great things. So yeah, it's worth considering if you are looking for an iPad case. It retails for $39.99 from Moft and also Amazon. It's available on Amazon UK and Amazon.com. It comes in a couple of different colors. It comes in black, brown, and a white color. Yeah, depending on the size of your iPad, obviously it's going to increase the height more on a bigger iPad than it will on a tinier iPad. It's available for iPad and iPad Pro, 11-inch and 12.9-inch, and iPad Mini. So yeah, definitely a worthy consideration if you are looking for an iPad stand. It does also, just like fold around so that you can like stand it up and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an iPad stand in a case.
I like that. It's so clever. It's with it all built in right there. I think that's so clever. And I love Moft's sort of play with origami that they do with their different accessories. That's such a cool idea. All right. My cap today says cat girl, which is precisely the opposite of me in every way. I honestly don't know what this cap is. I came into the Twit Studios one day and it was sitting on my desk. And so someone at some point decided that I should be a cat girl. I don't know who or why or what, but today I am wearing my cat girl hat. It is sort of hot pink and has just the most questionable patterns on it and has camo on the sides. So I'm partially invisible as well. And then there's this sort of feminine figure between cat and girl, just the face rather, and is wearing cat ears. I don't know, but there it is. It's the cap atop my head today. Anyway, the app that I wanted to talk about today is probably going to have you all shook because I'm going to talk about Microsoft Edge for iOS. What? Yes. The reason I'm talking about Microsoft Edge for iOS is because there you go. For the folks who are listening and not watching, you didn't see the incredible explosion that just happened on the screen as all of our minds were blown. Microsoft Edge for iOS gives you access to Microsoft Bing, which of course has Bing AI now built into it. And so I just wanted to mention Bing AI and talk about how this is now available. Just the other day, I did not know this. And so I learned for the first time that ferns, which are one of the oldest living organisms in existence, and in fact have, I think, nearly double, if not double, the chromosomes in their DNA structure that humans have. They do not sort of spread via seeds. Ferns create spores. And those spores then go out and, of course, help them to make new versions of themselves. And I will be honest, I thought spores were very much a fungi thing and not a plant thing. And so it was news to me. And in fact, long ago, people thought that any plant that you had obviously spread via seeds. And so they just thought that fern seeds were so small that they were invisible. And so it used to be that if you were trying to be sneaky, if you're trying to be somebody who's going into a house and stealing things, you would carry fern seeds in your pocket because that would make you sneakier because they were invisible. But it turns out they were just gathering dirt underneath a fern and sticking it in their pocket because there weren't fern seeds because they use spores. Anyway, all of that is to say that I wanted to know more about ferns being able to spread themselves using spores versus seeds, and then to learn a little bit about what the difference is between a spore and a seed. So I asked Bing that very question. So I'm going to do that now. What's the difference between spores and seeds in plants? And it decided that it didn't need that second part of the implants. So it is currently searching for this. And the way that it's important to understand that, of course, Microsoft's Bing is using OpenAI's ChatGPT. But where ChatGPT in the chat.openai.com website is just a back and forth where you are talking to it and it is using its database of information that is part of the system. It's, language learning model. This version actually has, it has access to the internet. Yes, it can go out and sort of gather links and tell you a little bit about what's going on here. So now I've got this information. It says spores and seeds are both reproductive structures of plants, but they have some key differences. Spores are single cells, while seeds are multicellular. Spores do not contain stored food resources, while seeds do. Spores are smaller than seeds and need a magnifying glass or a microscope to see them, while seeds can be seen and touched easily. I don't think that's entirely true. Spores require more favorable conditions for germination, while seeds can germinate in harsh conditions as well. And what's fascinating is when I asked this before, Bing said that seeds were, or rather said that spores were more hardy and could be in unfavorable conditions. But that is not true because seeds contain a little bit of food and energy for themselves. So even in harsher conditions, they're able to germinate and do what they need to do. Whereas spores, you spread even more than you would because the chances that they're going to not make it's very high. So anyway, that is just a bit of a warning that it doesn't always get things right. And you should always tap on the little numbers next to the results, because when you do, it will give you some insight into how it is collecting that, or where it is gathering that information. So that way you know what is going on. And by the way, folks, I know growing up, I used to see on the underside of some leaves these weird little blotches, and I always thought every time it was insect eggs. I thought it was ladybugs laying eggs or some other thing laying eggs. It's not always eggs. Occasionally, it's spores because the plant spreads itself using spores instead of seeds. So I learned a lot, and Bing's AI didn't help me all that much, is my point. But if you'd like to give it a go, if you'd like to try it, you can get the Microsoft Edge web browser for free for iOS. And yes, as you can see, I've got access to Bing's AI chatbot there. And although it didn't help me too much in terms of, it gave me the basic understanding of the difference between the two, especially the multicellular versus single cellular and the energy difference with the food. But it gave me, more importantly, access to some sources where I could then read myself and learn what I needed to learn about it so that I was finally in the right frame of mind when it came to ferns. I learned about ferns and I was happy to have done so. So yes, there's the Microsoft Edge web browser for iOS, again, available for free in the App Store to check out. And with that, we have reached the end of this episode of iOS Today. I hope you are currently freeing up all of that space on your Apple devices right now, and you just have all of this extra space and going, oh, I can take so many more photos now. I can download so much more music, whatever it is you want to do. I hope that we were able to help you out with that. If you have questions, concerns, feedback, etc., send those to iOStoday@twit.tv. Tune in to watch us record the show live every Tuesday at twit.tv/live. We record the show live around 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 12 p.m. Eastern. And that's, again, every Tuesday around about that time. And we'd love to have you watch us live. But the best way we think to get the show is by subscribing or following. And you do that by going to twit.tv/iOS. There, you will find links to subscribe to audio or subscribe to video. You click on those links, and behind those links are different ways to become a subscriber. You know, on whatever service you use, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We try to be in all the places, even just plain old RSS, because that's what's at the heart of podcasts, as you well know. So we'd love it if you became a subscriber or a follower so that you can get the show as soon as it's available. I want to also mention Club Twit. That is our exclusive club at twit.tv/clubtwit. When you join the club, starting at $7 a month or $84 a year, you will get access to some great things. First, you get every single Twit show with no ads because you, in effect, are supporting the show. And so therefore, you get just the content. So completely ad-free experience for all of the shows. You also get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else, behind the scenes, before the show, after the show, all sorts of great stuff in that Twit Plus bonus feed. Love for you to check that out. And access to the members-only Discord server. which is a fun place to chat with your fellow Club Twit members and also those of us here at Twit. It is a great place for us to find questions for the show as well, and often answers and links and all sorts of fun stuff. Animated images. It's chock full of fun. So please join the club and get that as well. And then while you're, checking all this stuff out, we also have some other goodies for you because you get access to some other shows. There's the Untitled Linux Show, which is a show, as you might imagine, it's all about Linux. You get access to Paul Thurrott's Hands on Windows program, a short format show that has Windows tips and tricks, and access to a show called Hands on Mac, hosted by yours truly, where I cover in a short format all things Apple to help you with tips and tricks of making the most of your Apple devices. Rosemary Orchard, it is time. If people are looking to follow you online and check out all your great work, where should they go to do so?
The best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to all the things I do all around the internet, including various social media sites. And the other places that you can find me are, of course, on the Club Twit Discord in the iOS Today channel, where I'm always hanging out and, keeping an eye on the feedback that folks are sending in and joining in as I'm able to, and always enjoying the various different things that folks share with us. Or, of course, you can get in touch with me on social media, Rosemary at snailedit.social on Mastodon, Rosemary at micro.blog on micro.blog, which does post to Twitter, but I'm not really checking Twitter. So if you want to send us feedback, use the email that Mikah mentioned earlier. Mikah, where can folks find you?
I am at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network. You can also head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. So please do check that out and follow me there. And Rosemary Orchard and I will be back next week with even more. But until then, we say goodbye to all of you and thank you for tuning in.
Do you want to hear about the latest news happening in the tech world from the people who write the articles, sometimes from the people who are actually making the news? Well, we got a show for you here at twit.tv. It's called Tech News Weekly. Me, Jason Howell, and my co-host Mikah Sargent, we talk with some amazing people each and every Thursday on Tech News Weekly, and we share a little bit of our own insights in each of us bringing a story of the week. That's at twit.tv/TNW. Subscribe right now.